The sky above the human base was bright and clear. Soldiers stood in long lines, their boots pressing into the soil. Engineers adjusted machines, and officers checked scanners again and again. Everyone waited for the alien ship. It had been months since Earth received the message. The message said the Alien Alliance was sending their diplomat to Earth. Today was the day. Captain Ron stood at the front of the gathering. He was tall, quiet, and serious. Many people respected him, not because he was loud, but because he was steady. He did not lose control when others panicked. He did not bend when others tried to push him. That was why the council had chosen him. If Earth was to speak with the aliens, Ron would be the one. A low hum filled the air. People lifted their eyes. The sound grew louder. The ground shook a little. Shadows spread across the field as a great shape moved above the clouds. Then the alien ship appeared. It was not like human ships. Its body was smooth and silver, glowing faintly as if the light came from within. It did not use wings or fire. It floated with calm power and descended slowly. Everyone held their breath. Weapons were ready but hidden. Ron kept his face calm. He thought of his duty. These aliens had crossed stars. They were advanced, and Earth was still young compared to them. But Earth would not kneel. He repeated this inside his mind again and again. The ship landed. A door slid open with a soft hiss. From inside, a figure walked out. The soldiers stiffened. Some whispered under their breath. The figure was not what many expected. It was a woman, or at least she looked like one. Her steps were graceful, her movements light. Her skin shone faintly, like polished stone touched by the moon. Her eyes were bright and steady. Her hair flowed like strands of silver mixed with soft color. She wore a robe that shimmered when the sun touched it. This was Myra, the alien diplomat. The alien council had chosen her with care. Myra was known across many worlds. She had spoken to kings and chiefs, traders, and generals. She was trained in the art of charm. Her presence was meant to calm fears and soften resistance. She was not only skilled in speech but in presence itself. Many who met her felt they wanted to agree with her before she even spoke. Myra walked down the ramp with no fear. She looked at the rows of humans, their eyes filled with both wonder and caution. Her gaze finally found Ron. He was waiting for her, hands behind his back, posture strong. Unlike the others, his face showed no surprise, no nervousness. He only watched. Myra's lips curved into a soft smile. She had seen this many times. Leaders trying to hide their awe, hiding their fear. She thought, as always, she would win. Ron bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect but not submission. "Welcome to Earth," he said in a calm voice. Myra inclined her head, her voice smooth and warm. "I thank you, Captain Ron. It is an honor to stand here. I come with the wish of peace." Her words carried easily over the field. Even without knowing why, some soldiers felt their hearts lighten. Myra's tone was almost like music. But Ron was not moved. He nodded once and motioned toward the council chamber. "Then let us begin with words," he said. Inside the chamber, the air was cooler. Flags of Earth's nations lined the walls. The round table in the center was empty, waiting for them. Ron walked to one side, Myra to the other. A small group of human advisors stayed behind Ron. Myra stood alone. She needed no guard. She was her own weapon. For a moment, silence filled the room. Myra let it stay. She knew silence could be powerful. She studied Ron. His eyes were dark and steady. His hands rested flat on the table. His shoulders were strong, but he did not puff them out like many men did. He did not try to impress. He simply was. Interesting, she thought. I have been sent by my people to bring your world into the alliance, Myra said at last. We are many, we are strong, and we wish to share knowledge and protection. Together, we can walk into the future without fear. Her words flowed smoothly. Many humans would already feel eager to accept. But Ron only tilted his head slightly. And what do you ask in return, he said. Myra's smile widened. She expected the question. She stepped closer, her robe catching the light. We ask for friendship. For loyalty. For your hand in unity. Nothing more. The advisors behind Ron shifted uneasily. The words sounded good. Almost too good. Ron kept his voice calm. Earth has walked alone until now. We do not give away our trust in a single day. Myra's eyes brightened. She liked the challenge. This was different. Many leaders rushed forward, eager for alliance, eager for gifts. This one did not. He stood firm. That made her work harder. She leaned forward slightly, her tone softer. Then allow me time. Let us speak not as rulers, not as soldiers, but as people. I believe we will find more in common than you expect. Ron met her eyes without blinking. His face stayed steady, but inside he felt a small weight settle. He knew this was the test. They had sent someone not to argue with weapons but to bend with beauty and charm. His task was harder than he thought. The first meeting ended without decision. Myra bowed gracefully and returned to her ship. Ron walked back to his quarters. Outside, soldiers whispered about the alien woman, some admiring her, some worrying. Ron sat alone, his thoughts sharp. He knew his people expected him to see past the surface. He could not let Earth fall into a trap, even if the trap was wrapped in light and beauty. Myra, inside her chamber, touched the small crystal she carried. It was her link to the council. She whispered her first report. The human is steady. He does not bend. This will take longer than I thought. And so, the game began. Myra stood in her quiet chamber aboard the alien ship. The walls glowed faintly with soft blue light, and the air carried a gentle hum from hidden machines. She gazed into the mirror-like surface in front of her, studying her reflection. Her eyes were calm, her face flawless, and her robe fell perfectly into place. She knew she was made for this task. From her earliest years, she had been trained to speak, to listen, to sway. Many alien leaders called her the jewel of diplomacy. Her mission on Earth was supposed to be simple. But Captain Ron was not simple. She replayed the first meeting in her mind. She had smiled, she had spoken with the rhythm that often broke down walls, yet he had not bent. His eyes had not wavered. His words were short and heavy, like stones placed in the path of her river. He had not been rude, but he had not allowed her to guide the moment either. That was unusual. Myra let out a slow breath. She knew the alien council was watching. They expected her to win trust quickly. They believed humans were young and easily moved by charm. She could not fail them. Failure would not only stain her name but could shift the path of relations between Earth and the Alliance. Across the base, Captain Ron was also lost in thought. His advisors gathered around him, speaking in quick voices. Some believed Myra was honest and her words should be taken at face value. Others warned that every gesture might be part of a larger trap. Ron listened but spoke little. His mind returned again and again to the way Myra looked at him, not with open hostility but with quiet curiosity. He reminded himself of his duty. She was not here to make friends. She was here to pull Earth into an alliance that humans did not fully understand. His task was to guard his people, not to be caught in her light. The next morning, Myra asked for another meeting. This time, she suggested they walk outside the base instead of sitting at the round table. Ron hesitated but agreed. He wanted to see how she behaved away from the walls of diplomacy. The two walked side by side on a stone path that stretched along the edge of the base. Trees swayed in the wind, and the sound of birds filled the air. Myra glanced around with interest. She had studied Earth through screens and records, but standing beneath the wide human sky was different. "Your world is alive in a way many planets are not," she said softly. "The air, the water, the green land. It is no wonder your people fight to protect it." Ron studied her face. Her words sounded genuine, yet he knew how skilled she was at weaving truth with persuasion. "You have seen many worlds," he said. "Do you always speak so kindly of them?" Myra's lips curved. "Only when it is true." They walked in silence for a while. Myra let the quiet grow, knowing it often drew people to speak. She expected Ron to fill the silence with questions or doubts. Instead, he remained calm, letting the silence rest. That made her curious. Few could resist her subtle pull. At last she said, "I want to understand your people, not only your council. Tell me, Captain, what drives Earth? What do humans dream of?" Ron's gaze shifted to the horizon. He thought before he spoke. "We dream of many things. Some dream of peace. Some dream of power. Some dream of the stars. But at the heart, most humans want freedom. We wish to walk our own path, even if it is hard." Myra tilted her head. His answer struck her more deeply than she expected. Freedom was not something many worlds spoke of. Most worlds in the Alliance valued safety and order over choice. Her training told her to respond with smooth words, but something inside her wanted to answer honestly. "I understand," she said quietly. "I too value freedom, though my life has not been my own for a long time." Ron turned his head slightly, curious. But before he could ask, Myra smiled again, her mask returning. "Still, freedom does not have to mean isolation. An alliance could protect your world from threats beyond your sky." Ron's voice was steady. "Protection often comes with chains. I will not let Earth wear them without thought." Myra's eyes held his. For a moment, the air between them grew heavier, as if they stood on a thin bridge above deep waters. She felt a strange stirring inside her chest. This was not how her missions usually went. She was supposed to lead, and the other side was supposed to follow. But here, she felt as though she was being led somewhere unknown. When the walk ended, Myra returned to her ship and sent another report to her council. She told them the human leader was strong, not easily moved, but she also said Earth had great potential for alliance. She did not tell them about the flicker of interest she felt when Ron spoke of freedom. That part she kept to herself. In the following days, more meetings were held. Some were formal in the chamber, others were simple walks or shared meals. Myra tried many approaches. She spoke of advanced technology, of medicine that could heal the sick, of ships that could cross the stars faster than light. Ron listened, asked questions, but never promised anything. Myra noticed something else as the days passed. She began to talk less like a diplomat and more like herself. She told Ron about her home world, about the wide oceans that glowed in the night, about the towers of crystal that hummed with music when the wind passed through them. She told him of her youth, of how she was chosen young to serve the Alliance. Ron listened with quiet respect. He asked questions not as a negotiator but as a person who wanted to understand. His calm presence made Myra feel lighter than usual. She found herself laughing once, a sound that startled even her. She could not remember the last time she had laughed during a mission. But at night, when she was alone, she reminded herself of her duty. She was sent to charm him, to make Earth join. She was not here to feel or to wonder. She tried to lock her heart, yet it began to slip. Ron, too, felt the shift. He told himself to stay guarded, yet he could not ignore the honesty in Myra's eyes when she forgot her mask. He began to see her not as a tool of the Alliance but as a being who carried her own burdens. The mission that began as a simple test of charm was turning into something far more complex. And both of them knew, even if they did not speak it, that the path ahead would not follow the plan. The chamber was quiet except for the soft hum of the machines that kept the air fresh. The round table between Ron and Myra was once again filled with notes, small devices, and maps of stars. The council members had left the room, giving the two leaders a chance to speak alone. Myra leaned forward slightly, her hands resting on the table. "Your world is strong in spirit, Captain," she said in her warm voice. "But strength alone is not enough. Beyond your skies, there are empires that would not hesitate to strike at you. The Alliance can shield you from that danger. Together, you would not need to stand alone." Ron studied her closely. He could see the calm confidence in her eyes, the way she spoke with perfect rhythm. Yet beneath her smooth words, he felt the push of persuasion, as if her presence itself carried weight. "Perhaps," Ron answered slowly, "but every shield has a cost. If we allow another to shield us, who then holds the power over our choices? I will not allow Earth to be protected if it means Earth is no longer free." Myra tilted her head, her silver hair shining in the dim light. She had heard many resist at first, but usually their fear softened when she offered visions of peace and power. This man, however, spoke with steady certainty. His voice did not rise, his face did not harden, but his words built walls. "Why is freedom so precious to you?" Myra asked, her tone curious. "Because," Ron said, "without freedom, peace has no meaning. A peace forced by chains is no peace at all." Myra sat back in her chair. For a moment, she forgot her lines, the polished phrases she had practiced. Instead, she looked at him quietly. His words were simple, yet they struck her in a way she had not expected. Few leaders she met ever spoke with such plain truth. Most cared for power, comfort, or survival. This man cared for something deeper. She felt a strange stir in her chest. She quickly pushed it aside. Her mission came first. "You are not like the others," Myra said. "Most who sit across from me try to bargain for gifts or beg for safety. You do neither." "I am not here to beg," Ron replied. "I am here to protect my people." Their eyes held each other for a long moment. It was not the look of enemies, but it was not yet the look of friends. It was the look of two wills meeting, testing, pressing. The following days continued much the same. Meetings stretched long, sometimes with advisors, sometimes with just the two of them. Myra spoke of wonders the Alliance could share, ships that could heal broken weather, machines that could grow food in deserts, medicines that could cure illnesses humans feared. Ron listened, his expression calm. He admitted the gifts were great, but he asked again and again, at what price? Myra felt the tug of frustration. She was not used to such resistance. Yet at the same time, she felt something else: respect. This human was not easy to sway, but he was not blind either. He listened carefully, weighed every word, and treated her not as a trick but as a true speaker. One evening, after a long discussion, they stepped outside to breathe fresh air. The sky was painted with red and gold as the sun sank behind the horizon. Myra stood quietly, her robe glowing faintly in the light. "You guard your people well," she said at last. "It is not easy to stand firm when offered so much." "It is not about me," Ron replied. "If I fail, my people pay the cost. I cannot be careless." Myra looked at him, truly looked. His face was not soft, but it carried no pride. He did not resist for himself. He resisted for the sake of others. She felt a small ache inside her chest again. She reminded herself that she was trained for this. She was meant to find his weakness, to step into his heart and guide him toward her counsel's plan. Yet the more she tried, the more she felt her own walls slowly lowering. Later that night, Myra sat alone in her chamber. She touched the crystal on her desk and sent her report. "The human captain does not bend easily. He speaks of freedom as though it is worth more than life itself. Persuasion will take longer than expected." The council's reply came quickly. "Do not fail. Use every skill you have. Earth must join us. Remember your training. You are the key." Myra closed the link and sat in silence. She pressed her hands together and lowered her head. She told herself she could not allow feelings to cloud her task. And yet, deep inside, something was already changing. Ron, in his quarters, wrote his own notes. He reminded himself again that charm was as dangerous as weapons. He knew the alien diplomat was chosen for her ability to sway leaders. He told himself to stay alert, to guard his heart. But as he wrote, his thoughts drifted back to her eyes when she spoke of freedom, and how for a moment, her mask had slipped. He wondered what lay beneath her role as diplomat. The clash between them was no longer only about words. It was becoming something deeper, something harder to define. Myra sought to bend him, but she found herself moved. Ron sought to guard against her, but he found himself curious. The struggle of will had begun, and neither side could walk away unchanged. The days passed like a slow river, steady but filled with quiet currents. The talks between Captain Ron and Myra no longer felt like battles of words. They became long conversations, sometimes about the alliance, sometimes about life itself. What had started as a mission of strategy began to turn into something neither of them had expected. One morning, Ron entered the council chamber with a small book in his hand. It was old, its cover worn, its pages filled with careful writing. He placed it on the table between them. Myra looked at it with curiosity. "What is this?" she asked. "It is a journal from my grandfather," Ron said. "He was a farmer. He wrote about his land, his crops, his family. He never saw the stars as I have, but he believed the soil beneath his feet was as precious as the stars above." Myra touched the edge of the book carefully, almost reverently. She had seen machines that held the knowledge of 100 worlds, yet the simple book carried a weight she could not explain. "Why show this to me?" she asked. "Because," Ron said, "this is what I protect. Not only the soldiers, not only the machines, but the lives of people who plant seeds and raise children. If Earth joins the Alliance, I must be sure their voices are not lost. Myra listened in silence. No council, no emperor, no leader had ever spoken to her in such a way. They always wanted more power, more wealth, more influence. This man spoke only of ordinary lives. Her chest tightened with an unfamiliar feeling. That night, when she returned to her ship, Myra found herself unable to send a full report. How could she explain that the human captain had shown her a simple book, and that it had touched her more than 1,000 speeches? She left her report short, saying only that progress was slow. The next day, Myra decided to show something of her own. She invited Ron to her ship, something she had never done for other leaders before. When he stepped inside, the walls glowed with soft light, and gentle music hummed through the air. Myra guided him to a small chamber. "This is a memory hall," she explained. "Our people store visions here. They are not only records but living images of our world." She touched a panel, and suddenly the room filled with light. Around them, the ocean of her home spread wide, glowing under 3 moons. Waves moved with silver light, and crystal towers rose from the sea. Ron stood still, his eyes wide. The room felt alive, as if he were standing on her planet. "This is my home," Myra said softly. "I was taken young to serve the Alliance. I have spent more years traveling than living there. Sometimes I feel I do not belong to it anymore." Ron turned to her, surprised by her honesty. He had expected a perfect diplomat, always guarded. Instead, he saw someone who carried her own weight of loss. "It is beautiful," he said. "But it sounds as though beauty was not enough for you." Myra gave a faint smile. "Perhaps not." Their eyes met, and for a moment the mission faded. There were no councils, no alliances, only 2 beings standing together, seeing each other not as tools but as people. The bond between them grew quietly in the days that followed. They still spoke of treaties and risks, but in between, they spoke of childhood, of family, of small dreams. Myra told him how as a child she used to swim in glowing waters at night. Ron told her how he once got lost in the forest and found his way back by following the sound of birds. One evening, after a long day of talks, the 2 found themselves walking again under the open sky. The stars shone brightly, spread across the heavens. Myra looked up and whispered, "So many stars, and yet I feel small among them." Ron glanced at her. "Perhaps feeling small is not weakness. It reminds us that we are not alone." Myra felt warmth in his words. She had spent years moving from one world to another, never forming roots. For the first time, she wondered what it would be like to belong to one place, to one person. When they stopped by a quiet lake near the base, the air was cool and still. The water reflected the stars like a mirror. They sat near the edge, saying little. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It was gentle, like a blanket laid over tired shoulders. Myra turned her head toward him. "I was told to win your trust. I was told to use charm, to use every tool I have. But when I am with you, I find myself forgetting the mission. That has never happened before." Ron's voice was low but firm. "Perhaps because you are tired of missions. Perhaps you want to be seen as more than a diplomat." Myra lowered her eyes. His words struck truth. She had spent her life playing a role, yet here was someone who spoke to the part of her she thought was hidden. The closeness between them deepened that night. They did not speak of the alliance, nor of duty. They spoke only of themselves, and in that space, something stronger than strategy began to form. Neither of them planned it. Neither of them had expected it. But as the days moved forward, they could no longer deny it. An unintended bond had taken root, and it was growing, quietly but firmly. Ron knew he had to remain cautious, yet he also knew his heart was no longer untouched. Myra knew she had to serve her council, yet she also knew her loyalty was shifting. The mission that began with charm was turning into something far deeper. And both of them felt, though they did not yet say it aloud, that their lives would never be the same again. Myra woke before the first light touched the horizon. She sat on the edge of her bed in the alien ship, her hands pressed against her stomach. Something felt wrong, or at least different. For the past few days, she had noticed her body was not the same. Her strength wavered, her balance shifted, and her energy drained faster than before. At first she thought it was stress, the weight of her mission pressing too hard. But now, the feeling was deeper. She stood and walked to the small medical chamber built into her quarters. Machines hummed to life as she placed her hand on the scanner. A beam of soft light ran over her body, collecting every detail. When the results appeared, Myra froze. Her heart pounded. The answer was clear. She was carrying new life. Her breath caught in her throat. For a moment, the world around her felt unreal. This was never part of the plan. Her council had trained her to win hearts, but they had never spoken of this outcome. She touched the edge of the scanner again, hoping the reading was wrong, but the result glowed steadily. Fear rushed into her chest. What would her people say? What would the council think? They would not see this as a gift. They would see it as failure. Worse, they might see it as betrayal. She sank into her chair, her hands trembling. She tried to steady her breathing, but her thoughts spun out of control. She had always been in command of her mission, her presence, her future. Now she felt powerless. When she finally stepped outside the ship, the sun was already rising. She wore her calm mask again, but her eyes betrayed her unease. Ron noticed at once. "You are troubled," he said quietly when they met in the council chamber. Myra shook her head. "I am only tired." But Ron had spent weeks learning to read her face. He leaned forward slightly. "You are not only tired. Something has changed." Myra looked away, her breath uneven. She wanted to deny it, to bury the truth inside, but the weight in her chest was too heavy. At last she whispered, "I cannot hide it. Something has happened. I am carrying a child." The words hung in the air like a stone dropped into deep water. Ron sat still, his expression unreadable. Inside, his thoughts raced. He had not expected this, not in any way. Yet he felt no anger, no shame. He only felt the sudden weight of responsibility. Myra's voice trembled as she continued. "This was not meant to happen. My people will see it as a weakness, as failure. They may call me traitor. I do not know what they will do. And Earth may not welcome this either." Ron rose from his seat and stood before her. His voice was steady. "You are not alone. If you carry this child, then I will stand with you." Her eyes lifted, wide with disbelief. "You would risk that? Even if your people turn against you?" "Yes," Ron said firmly. "Because this child is not a mistake. It is life. And life deserves protection." Myra's eyes filled with tears she had not shed in years. She had always been strong, always unshaken. But now, with those simple words, the walls she had built around her heart cracked. For a while, silence filled the chamber. Myra sat with her hands on her lap, her mind storming with fear and hope. Ron stood tall, his shadow long against the wall. Later that day, Myra walked alone near the lake. She touched the water with her hand and whispered to herself, "What will I do now?" The gentle ripples gave no answer. Meanwhile, the alien council had begun to sense her hesitation. They sent a message, asking for a full report. Myra delayed, afraid to tell them the truth. She knew they would not understand. To them, she was a tool of diplomacy, nothing more. Ron joined her at the lake that evening. He carried no notes, no maps, no reports. Only his presence. "You do not have to face them alone," he said softly. Myra shook her head. "You do not understand. My people will not see this as a bond. They will see it as betrayal. They will not forgive me. And if they know the truth, they may try to take the child away." Ron's jaw tightened. "Then we will not let them. This child belongs to both worlds. It is not theirs to control." Myra looked at him, searching his face for doubt. She found none. He was steady, as he always was. That night, Myra lay awake in her chamber. She thought of the future. If she told her people, they might cast her out. If she stayed silent, the truth would still come out in time. Every path seemed heavy. Yet when she remembered Ron's words, she felt a small flame of hope. He had not turned away. He had promised to stand with her. She placed her hand on her stomach and whispered, "I will protect you." Across the base, Ron wrote his report for Earth's Council. He did not write the full truth, not yet. He only said that the talks were taking a new direction, that trust was growing slowly. He knew the day would come when he would have to tell his people everything. But when that day came, he would face it with strength. The consequence of their bond had begun. Neither Myra nor Ron had planned it. Neither knew what storms it would bring. But both of them understood one thing: the path ahead was no longer about treaties or alliances. It was about life, about the future of two worlds tied together by a single child. Myra stood at the window of her ship, staring into the endless night sky. Stars glittered like distant fires, but she felt no comfort in them. The message from her council still glowed on the screen behind her. They demanded a full report. They wanted details about the human captain, about Earth's position, about her progress. She knew that soon they would demand her return. Her hands pressed against the glass, and she whispered, "What will I tell them?" The truth weighed heavy. She carried life inside her now, life that connected two worlds. But she knew her people would not celebrate. They would call her weak, unfit to serve. They might even strip her of her role, or worse, try to control what she carried. The sound of the door opening drew her from her thoughts. Ron stepped inside. His face was calm, but his eyes carried concern. "They have called you, haven't they?" he asked. Myra nodded. "They want answers. And soon they will come for me if I delay too long." Ron walked closer. "Then you must decide. Will you tell them the truth? Or will you keep it hidden?" Her voice trembled. "If I tell them, they will judge me. If I hide it, they will sense I am not loyal. Either way, I lose." Ron's expression grew firm. "You do not lose. You only choose which path you will walk. And whichever path you choose, I will walk it with you." Myra looked at him, her eyes heavy with doubt. "Do you understand what you say? If they see you as the cause, they may turn their anger toward Earth." They may even see this as an act of war. Ron did not flinch. Then let them come. Earth will not bow so easily. The fire in his words stirred something inside her. He was not afraid of power or threat. He spoke with the strength of someone who valued life above politics. That evening, Myra sent her reply to the council. Her hands moved slowly across the console. She did not tell them about the child. She only said that talks were moving forward and that she required more time. The message was short, but she knew it would not satisfy them. They would send envoys. Perhaps they would even send watchers to monitor her. After sending it, she stepped outside the ship and found Ron waiting. They walked together along the path by the lake. The night air was cool, and the stars reflected in the water. "Do you regret this?" Ron asked suddenly. Myra stopped walking. She looked at the water, her reflection trembling in the ripples. For a long time she said nothing. Then her voice came, soft but steady. "No, I do not regret it. I only fear what will come." Ron gave a small nod. "Fear is natural. But regret is poison. If you do not regret it, then we already carry strength." Myra's chest tightened. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to hold to that strength. But she also knew her counsel was powerful. They did not forgive what they saw as betrayal. The next day, ships arrived from orbit. Sleek vessels with silver hulls, bearing the mark of the Alliance. The sight of them filled Myra's heart with dread. She knew the council had sent their watchers. When she entered the council chamber, 3 alien envoys were already there. Their eyes were cold, their voices sharp. "We sense hesitation in your reports," one of them said. "You were sent to gain full trust, yet you delay. Why?" Myra stood tall. "The humans are cautious. They are not like other worlds. They do not yield quickly. Trust takes time." The envoys exchanged glances. "Perhaps you are the one who hesitates," another said. "Perhaps you are no longer fit for this mission." Myra's hands curled into fists, but she kept her voice calm. "I am fit. I will complete my task. But if you rush, you will break what could be whole." The envoys said little more, but their eyes followed her with suspicion. Myra left the chamber with her heart pounding. She could feel their doubt pressing down on her like a heavy stone. Outside, Ron waited. He had heard their words through the thin walls. "They suspect," he said. "Yes," Myra whispered. "They do." "Then we must be ready," Ron replied. "If they learn the truth, they may try to take you. Or worse, take the child." Myra's eyes widened. The thought cut through her like a blade. "No, I will not let them." Ron placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we must prepare to stand together. Earth will not allow its captain to be taken. And I will not allow you to be taken either." That night, Myra could not sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling of her chamber. Every sound made her heart race. She felt the weight of 2 futures pressing against her, one where she obeyed her counsel and lost herself, and one where she defied them and risked everything. She placed her hand again on her stomach. The life inside her was small, fragile, yet powerful enough to change the fate of worlds. At dawn, she walked to the human base and found Ron already awake. He stood near the watchtower, looking over the land. "I have decided," she said, her voice firm. Ron turned to her. "What is your choice?" "I will not tell them," she said. "Not yet. This life must be protected until it is strong enough to stand." If they find out too soon, they will try to take it from us. I will not let that happen. Ron studied her face, then gave a slow nod. Then we will protect it together. No matter the cost. Myra felt a strange calm settle over her. The fear did not vanish, but it no longer ruled her. She had made her choice. The Watchers would not stop asking questions. The Council would not stop pressing for answers. But Myra had drawn her line. She would protect the child, even if it meant standing against her own people. And with Ron beside her, she no longer felt alone. The choice had been made. The storm was coming. But so was their resolve. The alien council's envoy ships hovered above the human base, their silver hulls reflecting the sun. Soldiers and scientists watched from below, uneasy. They had heard rumors of Myra's hesitation, but now the council had come in full force. The air felt heavy, tense with the weight of expectation and fear. Inside the human base, Myra and Ron stood together, facing the incoming ships. Myra's hand rested lightly on her stomach. The life growing inside her was a symbol of a bond neither side had anticipated, a bridge between two worlds. She had chosen to protect it, no matter the cost. Ron placed a hand on her shoulder. "Are you ready?" he asked. Myra met his eyes. "I have no choice," she said. "But I am ready." When the envoy ships landed, 3 figures stepped out. They were tall, sharp, and cold. Their eyes glimmered with the authority of the council. One of them spoke immediately. "You have disobeyed orders, Myra," the envoy said. "You delayed. You reported only half the truth. We have sent observers. We know what is happening." Myra stood tall. Her voice was calm, strong. "I report what is true. The humans are cautious, as I said. Nothing more has been done. I will not allow you to interfere with this life." The envoys exchanged glances. "This is your child," another said, "and yet you protect it against the will of your council. You risk alliance, your position, and even your life. Explain yourself." Ron stepped forward, his hands raised in peace. "This child is not a weapon. It is life. And life cannot be taken as payment for politics. Earth will not allow it." The envoys' expressions hardened. They had expected obedience, not defiance. Myra's words, backed by Ron, were strong enough to challenge them. Yet they were not easily moved. "You risk much, Captain," one envoy said to Ron. "You stand against the council. They are powerful. Why do you protect them?" "Because it is the right thing," Ron replied. "A life deserves protection. Not only from enemies but from those who claim authority over it. If you take this child, you take more than life. You take trust, hope, and future." For a moment, silence stretched across the landing field. Soldiers held their breath. Scientists watched, uncertain if the council would strike. Myra's heart pounded. She felt fear, yes, but also courage she had not known she possessed. Finally, Myra spoke again, addressing the envoys. "I have served the council for many years. I have followed orders, obeyed missions, and carried out diplomacy across stars. But I will not betray life for obedience. This child is part of both our worlds. If you take it, you destroy more than alliances. You destroy trust. You destroy hope." The envoys stood still, their sharp faces unreadable. They had never encountered a diplomat so firm, so unyielding, yet speaking with care, not threat. Myra's presence carried authority of its own. Ron joined her side, placing his hand over hers on her stomach. We will not fight to harm. We will fight only to protect. And you will see that life is stronger than fear, stronger than orders. The tension stretched. Then, slowly, the envoys stepped back. They had come to test, to enforce, and to command. But here, before them, two beings had shown courage, honesty, and determination. Even the council could not ignore such strength. Finally, the lead envoy spoke. You have chosen your path. The council will hear your report. But know this, consequences will follow. You have defied them openly. Prepare for scrutiny. Myra bowed her head slightly, not in submission, but in acknowledgement. I understand, she said. But I will not betray life. That is my choice. The envoys returned to their ships. The hum of engines filled the air as they lifted off. Myra exhaled slowly, relief washing over her. Ron stood beside her, his hand still resting lightly on hers. You were brave, Ron said. Myra smiled faintly. We were brave together. Over the next days, Earth's Council reviewed the situation. Reports of Myra's defiance reached every corner of the base, and yet, Ron's testimony and her careful explanations showed the Council that her actions were not reckless. They were deliberate, cautious, and protective. Slowly, the fear of interference faded, replaced by respect. Myra's actions had saved not only her child but also the fragile trust between worlds. Myra and Ron continued to meet, speaking not only of diplomacy but of life, of future, and of possibility. They planned carefully, preparing for the child, preparing for the worlds they now connected. As the weeks passed, Myra's strength returned, and she began to show the first signs of the life growing within her. Ron often accompanied her on walks outside, under the wide human sky. They spoke of names for the child, of hopes for the future, and of the worlds they wished to protect together. One evening, Myra looked at the horizon, the sun dipping low in the sky. She turned to Ron, her eyes shining with calm determination. We did not plan this, she said, but perhaps it was meant to be. A child that belongs to two worlds, it may change everything. Ron nodded, taking her hand. And we will make sure it changes for the better. We will protect it, teach it, and let it grow without fear. Myra smiled. For the first time in years, she felt at peace. The mission, the politics, the weight of the council, all of it no longer pressed on her heart. She was no longer only a diplomat. She was a mother, a protector, and a bridge between two worlds. The child within her grew stronger every day, and with each moment, the bond between Myra and Ron strengthened. Their lives, once separate and defined by duty, now intertwined in a way that neither could have foreseen. When the stars appeared again at night, shining clearly above Earth, Myra and Ron stood side by side, hands entwined, gazing upward. The future was uncertain, yes, but it was theirs to shape. Together, they would protect life, defend freedom, and guide two worlds toward a shared destiny. And in that quiet night, under the endless sky, Myra felt hope bloom. Not only for her child, but for all who would come after, a new generation born of courage, love, and the unity of two hearts and two worlds. The future had begun.